Hitler began his rise to power, speaking in the beer pubs of Bavaria, he would gather together 100, maybe 200 people. At one such meeting, in the back of the room is an old man, obviously Jewish, and Hitler goes on his tirade. The problem with Germany is the Jews. It's the fatherland of the Jews. I choose Germany over the Jews. On and on he rants. When he's done, the audience leaps to its feet in adoring applause, and Hitler notices that the old man claps along with the rest of the audience. When people began filtering out, Hitler made his way over to this old man, and he walked over to him and said, "Don't you think I meant what I said? Don't you think I mean to get rid of the Jews from Germany?" The old man, undaunted, looked at Hitler and said, "Oh, I believe well that you meant what you said. But you have to remember, we're an old people. We've been around for centuries. Many, many centuries ago, there was an evil king Pharaoh. He tried to enslave our people. When God saved us from him, what a beautiful celebration, Passover, days together as a family. Centuries later, there was an evil king, Haman. He tried to kill us. When God saved us from that, we have the beautiful holiday of Purim. Then came the Greek Syrians. When God saved us from them, we have the beautiful holiday of Hanukkah. But you, Hitler, you hate us more than all of them. When God saves us from you, what a holiday there'll be." There is no holiday that marks God saving the Jewish people from the Nazi regime. But the reality is that we are still here today discussing, learning, understanding the ways of our people. It has been a very rough 2,000 years in exile. We've suffered through crusades, Spanish Inquisitions, pogroms, blood libels. If there were ever a diabolical means of one man to torture another man, no, it was used on the Jews. If there were ever a method to kill another human being, no, it was used in full measure on the Jews. We were clubbed, gassed, murdered, shot, hung. Any method of eliminating a people were used upon us, but we're still here. We're still here today. And if you'd like to put this in perspective, I'll share with you an interesting exercise. On a nice, sunny Sunday morning, go downtown, Manhattan. Stand in front of the UN building and look at the beautiful array of colors, all the flags unfurling in the wind. I challenge you, find me a flag of a country that didn't expel us. Find me a flag of a country that didn't annihilate us. And the only flag that you might find, the only reason they didn't is because there were no Jews living there at the time. And the reality is that every shores upon which we landed, we were exiled, pogromed, murdered, and killed. Yet ironically, all of the vast empires of yesteryear are no longer here. The ancient Egyptians, where are they? The Persian dynasty, as mighty and powerful as it was, where is it? And the Greek Syrians, where are they? Of all the ancient people, the only one that was tortured, oppressed, hated, murdered wholesale, and still remains to tell the tale is the Jews. That one sheep amongst the 70 wolves is still around to tell its tale today. And even in the more recent times, with the most mechanized, systematic attempt to annihilate a people, we're still here today. Yet where is the Third Reich? The Third Reich, which was to stand for at least 1,000 years, is no longer, but the Jewish people are here. And the Chovos HaLevavos explains to us, if you want to see the hand of God, if you'd like to see Hashem active in our world, study Jewish history. Open a single page of a Jewish history textbook and you'll see God protecting this people, ushering them from shore to shore, always making sure that this people remains unique, special, a destiny for this people. And if you'd like to see Hashem active in the world, just study this fact that we alone are still here and still vibrant, still alive. But one more step. Yonashan Eibschitz explains that it's not just that we're still alive, we keep the very exact ways of our forefathers. We wear tefillin that are black with 10 different particulars in them because that's the way it was done earlier. We wear the same tzitzits, we light the same menorah, and we learn the very same Torah as did Abai and Rava hundreds, over 1,000, 1,500 years ago. And when you study these unique features, a people oppressed and hated, but yet somehow alive, a people that still keep their ways exactly, you begin to understand that this is a unique and special people. This is an exalted nation. But there's one last step that really puts a certain focus on this. As we understand this nation is unique, and this nation is kept alive because of their adherence to Torah, Torah study, Torah observance. The lifeblood of the Jewish nation has been its learning of Torah and its keeping the Torah. Any intelligent assessment in 1945 would have said the Jewish nation is finished. Granted, Hitler only succeeded in killing off a third of the body of the people, but the great Torah centers of Europe were no longer there. Every street corner with its Beis Medrash were wiped out. The great Rosh Yeshivas, the great yeshivas, the great Torah centers of Europe were wiped out, and nothing was to replace them. If you were to come to the shores of America in that era, in 1945, what you would have seen was a land desolate of Torah learning. You had a few small yeshivas. Rav Moshe Feinstein had a yeshiva on the Lower East Side with 20 men sitting around the table. Rav Aaron had a small yeshiva in Lakewood, 20, 30 men. You had tiny, small yeshivas, but more than that. This was the ultimate melting pot. The United States of America was the place you came to give up the old country. How many Jews came across the Atlantic with a beard and payas, and along the way the beard was cut, the payas were cut off, the tefillin were thrown overboard, and when they landed on these shores, this was America, the golden Medina, the new ways. Rav Aaron Kotler was approached by some of his Balabatim, some of his biggest supporters, because in the 1950s he had a dream. He had a vision of building a new Beis Medrash. But there were room in that Beis Medrash for over 200 Bachrim, 200 students. And his supporters came to him and said, Rosh Hashiva, what in the world do we need such a big Beis Medrash for? We'll never fill it. Today, there are not 200 young men learning in Lakewood. There are 7,000. And the Mir in Yerushalayim has its equivalent. And if you go to any street corner in Brooklyn, you'll see yeshiva after yeshiva flourishing, populated beyond anyone's imagination. And what you see is a rebirth of Torah that's inexplicable. America was the last bastion. There was no fertile ground here for Torah observance, for Torah learning. And yet, astonishingly, within these shores, the Torah has reflourished. Within Israel, within the world, we see a rebirth. Within a very short amount of time, we've created a Torah culture. We have our own magazines, our own newspapers, our own recording stars. We've created a Torah culture when there was nothing here. And when you study these phenomena, a nation that's oppressed and tortured from exile to exile yet remains alive, that remains pure to its ways, that still keeps its ways. When you see them facing the latest annihilation and yet they survive it, but they survive it against such peculiar odds, and the very lifeblood of their essence, the Torah, seems to be extinguished, but then you see a rebirth. You see a rebirth of Torah study. They say since the great yeshivas of Surah and Pumbedisa, there have never been these many young men who are involved in full-time Torah study. When you study these features, you see the hand of Hashem. You see an exalted nation. You see a nation with its destiny. May Hashem redeem us shortly to our final destination.